Hello, everybody. It is me, Pacific, talking from the garage again. And I put on a shirt. Listen to this, viewers. Some dude wrote and said, "Do you ever show your nipples?" You know what? There's some freaks out there, and they better stay away from me. Yeah, hammer. Good grief. So, this video today was prompted by the sermon this morning at the church I went to. Yes, the church that I did the video series, Bible Church. You know, the preacher is really good. He's spot on. So that's why I go. Forget the people. They're a waste of time. I know some of you are going, how can you say people are a waste of time? You know what I mean, man. I care about people. When people don't care about anybody and they're so jaded, you have to find a way to deal with them. And the only thing you can do is shut them out of your mind and get to what you need to get and move on. So the pastor was saying that the church today, statistically, is not passing the baton of faith or the gospel of Jesus Christ to the young generation, today's generation. He said the baby boomers are not passing on the faith. There's a huge discrepancy. And I just sat right up and I thought, yeah, you think? And I'm thinking, man, he's going to rip this one wide open. He didn't. But I was sitting there and the wheels were turning, and this video is baby boomers and their children. Let me tell you what Pacific has observed. I was adopted by baby boomer parents. Baby boomers are those that were born pretty much in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and they were born from the people who fought and were over in World War II, and possibly even some of them out of the Great Depression. America, after World War II, experienced unprecedented wealth, prosperity, plentiful jobs. A guy could go to work and get a job at a company and put in 25 years, no college experience, and have retirement benefits and all kinds of good perks. The baby boomers had it good. They heard the stories about the Depression, so they wanted to one-upsmanship that, and they spoiled their children, us. Bought us bikes and toys and motorcycles and snowmobiles and clothes. And some of you said, oh, I never got any of that. Okay. Caveat. Not all baby boomers are guilty of what I'm talking about. However, I am going to say that by my experiences and traveling nationwide, going to many denominations and evangelical churches from one side of America to another, from working with baby boomers to trafficking in the roads with baby boomers, I've made the following observations. And what I say today applies to the vast majority of baby boomers. Let's talk about the Christian perspective. Excuse me. I'm getting over this stuff, I'm telling you. Baby boomers, man, I need a pointer, man. How about this thing? We've got a broom handle, man. Great old broom handle. So, here's the deal. The reason that baby boomers are not passing their faith on to their kids is very, very simple. It's the same reason for what I say in Bible Church in Littleton, Colorado, and all the churches I've gone to. Most of the people attending those churches are baby boomers and the older people. Now, this is my personal opinion. The older generation had their problems, but one thing the older generation was known for, they were strong on morals, strong on work ethic, and they believed in taking care of their children. They also believed in teaching their children to work and to do things. I don't know what happened to the baby boomers, but they got out there, and a lot of them got good jobs, and they had the cushy, comfortable life, and they got so comfortable that they became inverted and inward and very self-centered. You take those people who have offspring, and their kids are going to compound that by 100% or 1,000%. Mom and dad, baby boomers, this is what they handed to us. I'm considered Generation X, and I'm 47. Let me tell you what I heard growing up. You must buy a home. You must get in debt. You must develop equity. You must take out a loan for a car. You must go to college. Everything was about financial success, and the emphasis was on establishing credit, i.e., getting in debt. The emphasis was so heavy on that there was little emphasis on God, if any. I was adopted into a semi-religious family. We had people of all faiths. We had Seventh-day Adventists, Catholics, Methodists, Mormons, and a smattering of everything. As I grew up, I can honestly look back in my family and I saw nothing that represented biblical Christianity modeled by any of the members of my family at all. Certainly not by what they watched, what they listened to, by how they raised their children, etc. Now, I had some relatives that I deeply respect, and I had some relatives in my life that I respected for certain things, but not one of them handed the faith to me. Definitely not the people who adopted me, my mother and father. My faith came from me having a deep need and asking questions. Same with my cousin, and same with my sister. We did not inherit the faith from our folks at all. Why? They didn't model it. They didn't model it in the slightest. Now, am I asking for perfection? Not at all. But God was so far away from their lives that we never grew up seeing any of that. They went to church Christmas and Easter, C&E Christians. One of the things that I noticed is when I lived in northern Minnesota, that's when I started to really zero in on focusing on the baby boomers. It was the baby boomers that were running the stop sign on my school bus. It was the baby boomers, the minivan moms that would pull up and block the school loading zones, the bus zones. It was the baby boomer mothers with the SUVs and the soccer moms and the big, heady, arrogant, I'm all attitude and I'm just such a cool Kool-Aid mom. They didn't pass anything that even remotely resembles God, Christ, Christianity, the Ten Commandments, nothing. My perception of the baby boomer generation is that they were spoiled, rotten little brats that still to this day act like they're walking around in diapers. A lot of them lack maturity. A lot of them lack basic common respect. I see it all the time out there in traffic with the way they drive. There's a huge disconnect in America between parents setting an example. I even look at my own father. I'm a commercial driver. My dad, when I was a kid, would go 80 miles an hour in his Honda from Los Angeles, California to Mammoth and bragged about it, not get tickets. And the whole family said he was a good driver. As I got older, I thought, especially when I got trained to drive a school bus, I thought, he was not a good driver. He was not a good example at all. I remember watching my mother sneak the dogs in the motel room where animals were not allowed, my mother stealing the ashtrays out of the motel room, and then years and years later, when I was married and we were traveling through Eureka, California, we had been traveling from Seattle, long day's drive, tired, pulled in the U-Haul. Guy comes out to our truck before we even get to the motel lobby, and he goes, oh, two people, oh, and you got a cat, that'll be this much. And I said, sir, the cat does not come in the motel room, I can't sleep with that thing. Nope, charging an extra $50. I said, sir, you can come out and look, the thing will be in the cab all night with his litter box. Nope, we've heard all that before. I was frustrated, I almost wrote the franchise, but then I stopped. Remember what your parents did? Brought the dogs in that pooped in the motel. Let me tell you something. The baby boomers did not set an example for the most part. They break the traffic laws. Many of them earn money under the table and brag about it. Well, you don't have to claim it. It's all cash. Baby boomers told us this often. Do as I say, not as I do. Then you go to churches today full of baby boomers that might be born-again Christians, and they're still selfish, they're still materialistic, they're still in debt, and they live no different than the world they claim to be delivered from. And while they're sitting there going, oh, look at the news, look at how terrible everything's, look at what's going on in Syria, they're chemical weapons. Let me tell you something, baby boomers, none of you care about those people. None of you are going to go over there and help those people, and you sit from the comfort of your living room watching the dang news, fearful and trepidation about all that's going on, and then you go out there and endanger my life by your stupid driving. If my parents were watching this video right now, they go, man, our son has lost it. He's nuts. He's very angry. You know what? Yeah, I have some anger. I bet. Um, do I manage it? Yes. I didn't have a loving mother and father. I didn't have warmth. I didn't grow up with hugs. I didn't grow up with an example. I heard my father say, God damn it, JC, Jesus Christ, it's cuss words. I heard my mother say, God bless it. I heard all this stuff growing up. My parents fought and fought and fought. My dad would try to hug my mother. And I'm saying this because the more people I talk to my age, they tell me, Pacific, all our families are effed up and dysfunctional. My dad cussed constantly. And I one day said, it's so frickin' hot. And he yelled at me and said, don't you say that or you get mouth washed out. I always laughed at baby boomers. They said, this is not for children, this is for adults. Oh, okay, so it's okay for adults to watch nudity and violence, but not kids. You know what that told me as a kid? Mom and Dad can watch all the sinful, nasty stuff, but we're not allowed to? Okay. Then you go to church. These baby boomers are unfriendly. This morning I went to church. Only one person greeted me today. One. And it was the lady that I know at the front door who's an appointed greeter. Not one other person said, how you doing, Pacific? And there's what? 200 people in this first service, and I don't know how many in the second. I watch as I'm waiting to come out of the parking lot. The baby boomers coming in with their big, giant four-door Super Duty diesel pickups and their Dodge Cummins pickups. And there's two ways out, and none of them are using their turn signal. I'm waiting because I don't want to pull out in front of them. And I thought, baby boomers are selfish. They buy these expensive SUVs. They have told kids that materialism is important. My mother taught me that things and pets were more important than us children. Now, let me clarify. My parents bought us clothing and food, and we had a lot of toys, and we were spoiled that way. That is a fact. Most baby boomer kids had it pretty. Baby boomer offspring had pretty good lives materially. But then we see a host of all these white middle class brats today that get on school buses, and you look at these kids, and their parents aren't modeling anything constructive. They're modeling materialism. They're modeling a life of debt. They're throwing their kids into daycare. They're teaching that mother needs to go have a job so she can have her own SUV and her own iPhone, iPad, and all this stuff. And we've sent a loud and clear message to the kids that kids are basically an inconvenience. I know that me growing up, I was not an easy boy to raise, but the lesson I got over and over is that I was a nuisance to my family. I knew that my mother wanted me as far away from her as she could put me. Did I learn anything from my mother? I learned a few things, but most of them were not good. I learned that antiques and stuff was more important than me. I learned that animals were more important than me, and I started becoming just like her. My sister came to visit when I used to rent the house next door many years ago when I was married, and she said this to me and her husband. My gosh, Pacific's house looks like Sheila's. I was like, oh my word. And that's when it hit me. I polished the furniture and did all this. After I downsized and everything, and after I moved out of Hibbing, Minnesota, moved to Washington, and then left Washington to go to Hong Kong, it suddenly dawned on me, what do I need all this crap for? And I know so many baby boomers' houses that are a museum. Don't put your feet on this. Don't bump that vase. Don't do this. And the message has been sent loud and clear. My stuff, my SUV, and my doggy is more important than you. And if you people watching me don't see that, you're blind as heck. I go to church on Sunday morning, and I see the baby boomers and their offspring, that the offspring are horrible today. They're very rude. They have no manners. Some of the baby boomers have manners. But they're all up there, hallelujah, yes, Jesus. And not one of them can say hi to me or be nice outside their little clique. And my impression of all these people is they're immature, stunted growth adults that never got the proper tools. I know I didn't get the proper tools. For crying out loud, I married 3 times. First time was my fault in the context that I went through with it out of fear, but I was manipulated by her folks, and I was pushed out of my own home by my mother's behavior, and I ran into the arms of basically what I would call a cult type man, and the guy was nuts. The second marriage, I married a woman who considers herself the end of the baby boomer generation. Could never say I'm sorry, could never admit she was wrong. That was addressed in today's message too. I like this pastor because he's stepping on toes. He gets bombarded with emails and he says that every Sunday. Don't be emailing me about this. I'm just telling you what the word says. This is what he said today. There's an appalling number of Christians that cannot say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. I've been saying that for years. The baby boomers on down will not say, I'm sorry. Today you're out there in traffic, somebody cuts you off, you honk the horn, and they're flipping you off and yelling at you like you hurt their feelings and you have crossed a line. And you say, hey, you cut me off, no turn signal. Today's generation of kids learned it from the baby boomers. They have no concept of right or wrong. They have no concept of taking ownership and responsibility. They will not and flat out refuse to say, I'm sorry. In 14 years of being married to that second wife, everything was my fault, all the time. Nothing was ever hers. I'm not going to do a video about what I did right and what I did wrong in that marriage. I am going to say that I did the best that I could. And I'm going to tell you that even after divorce, that woman has been a thorn in my side ever since and has caused major damage in my own son's life. My son respects me. Since I've been back to Colorado and nearby, I've been able to give him some direction, but he's been having trouble with her. The third woman I married was the one in Hong Kong. I truly thought that when I married somebody overseas that life would be so much better. And I still stick to my original position that there are many fine Asian women out there that make good wives, far superior than American women. Most American women can't cook, can't clean a house, can't manage their finances, can't even keep their car clean, and all they can do is blame us males. No thanks. But that woman that I married, she was older than me, and I thought, what is her problem? She was always yelling at me, to use the word bitching. How come you don't give me money for this? How come you don't do that? How come? And it took me a long time to realize, do you know what affected her attitude? She grew up watching American television, American movies. She was a Christian. I remember I came into the room one night. She was watching a very horribly violent movie. I said, what are you watching that for? Oh, it's just entertainment. I said, that's horrible. I said, I don't even watch that stuff. She had a belief that all of us Americans had that middle class dream. Take a look at sitcoms, take a look at TV shows in the United States, viewers, and tell me, what do you see? Nice house, GQ man, good-looking woman, nice cars, SUVs, nice furnishings, and the perfect little thing, right? Look at Seinfeld and that backdrop. Look at Family Matters. Look at the old shows from the 80s and 90s. Look at the shows today. They show anybody in a garage like this. They show anybody in a storeroom. They show anybody with their shirt off in a just, you know, cheap quality video series like me. Not Hollywood. Hollywood has led the world to believe that we've all got it so good over here. The woman from the Philippines had grown up on that, and she inherited some of those attitudes and that feminization and all that. And to quote Bern the Ender, feminization is hitting other countries and it is affecting other women, and that's a fact. It's happening in Hong Kong, it's happening in China now with their industrial revolution. They've gotten rid of their bicycles, getting cars, they're suffering obesity, they're suffering all the evils of materialism. Comfortable, petty, fussing about this and that. And I'm saddened because some of Chinese culture is going to get lost with the Americanization, the middle class dream. And I don't like to see that. Do I hate baby boomers? I don't, but I'm not comfortable with them. The people that fought in World War II, I respect them. The people that survived the Depression, they were nice to me. Those people, there's a few of them still around, and they live by a different clock, and I respect them. The baby boomers are all about me, and it's me first. You see it in traffic. 60, 65-year-old people pushing and shoving in their SUVs, and men that still didn't grow up and buying four-door Super Duty diesels and standing in the garage talking about all the power in my truck. It's like, someday you got to grow up, dude. I like power and I like pickups and I like fast muscle cars and stuff, but you know what? What have we handed our children? As far as the faith goes, they got a bad bill of goods. For people outside of faith, what did kids get? Well, we'll just keep buying you toys and spoil you. We're going to go to Disneyland. We're going to go to the beach. We're going to do this. Push my fun meter button every day. Now you got kids on medications. You got kids addicted to porn and booze and pot and everything else. Why? Because they got out there and got a job and found out their fun meter button wasn't pegged all the time. Bad things, Mom and Dad. You can't Disneyland your kid. You got to teach them reality. I'm having a tough time. I tried to get my son to pull weeds last summer. It was pulling teeth. When I was his age, even though I grew up with bad parents, I had high energy and I worked my butt off, shoveling snow, stacking 8 to 10 cords of wood, shoveling neighbors' driveways. I pushed it. Let me tell you what I did today. I went to church, came home, cut down a bunch of dead trees on the rental property next door, and broke all the branches down and dumpstered them all. Trimmed some trees out so that the gate for the access road could be open to the back of the yard. Did all this stuff. Then to top that off, I showered, and then I went and walked. Before church I walked 3.6 miles. Then after all of that, I went and walked the prestigious neighborhood of Denver and probably put on another 5 or 6 miles over there. So all in all, I put on 9+ miles today. Went to church, did a bunch of stuff. Today's kids cannot work as hard as I do. They just can't. You go into a store and you get some snotty little 2-inch breasted 20-something-year-old girl who throws your stuff in the bag and doesn't even count your change back and is busy talking to the other cashier and ignores you as you come through. You know what? That stuff pisses me off. What happened to customer service? All you got to do is look at the parents. I'm sitting at a red light today. Mother in an SUV pulls up. Her kid's sitting shotgun. He looks over at me. He looks like a punk. I've got my arm on the mirror and I've got my music kind of loud because I can. He gives me this look and I just kind of ignored it. Says something to his mother. His mother looks over at me. By the way, she's overweight and fat, and she makes some sort of a sneer towards my direction. I'm thinking, what was that all about? And then the light changes. She guns it and takes off. 30 miles an hour, but she's off like a jackrabbit and going well over that. And all I could think of is, good example, Mom. Thank you for teaching your kid that traffic laws are not important. One of my biggest frustrations for years, I remember Duluth, Minnesota. You talk about a dysfunctional town. When I drove school bus, home of the liberals, Duluth, Minnesota, I couldn't believe the parents that would park in the bus loading zones. These were the baby boomers for sure then. You tap the horn, and they glare at you, and they don't move. The signs say school bus loading zone only these times. I've gotten out of the bus and said, ma'am, you need to move. Well, I'm dropping off my kid. I don't care. You're in the school bus zone. The student zone is over there for the parents. They would cuss at me. They would flip me off. These were baby boomers. And then those same people would say, I don't know what has happened to my kid. He's so rude. He's destructive. He's vandalizing things. Because of the pathetic example you set. Parents, if there's one thing you've got to get straight, what you model, kids will take that and run with that even further than you did. You got a drinking problem? Your kid will really have a drinking problem and then some. It's so funny. The baby boomers also, a lot of them smoked. Kids were subject to secondhand smoke. I think I told you all the story. This was what I grew up with my mother and dad. In the car, 300-mile trips to go see the relatives in Southern California, and this is what I endured, and my sister as well. I have a lot of allergies. Not life-threatening. And my mother knew that. She actually found out I had allergies, and actually that was one good thing. She worked with me on finding what was causing specific reactions and stuff. But she would smoke and smoke and smoke and smoke. All the windows were up winter day, and I was terrified because she had trained me well. I'd say, "Could you please, Mom, crack the window?" "Oh, Michael, you're so intolerant." I kid you not, viewers, that's what I got. I was so afraid to ask, and I'm dying back there with the smell of that. You think that baby boomers weren't selfish? I have come to the conclusion that people who smoke cigarettes are the most selfish bastards on the planet. And they can say whatever they want to the contrary. They are addicted and they don't give a damn about anybody else. I have stood at bus stops waiting for a bus. I stood in a shelter one day. It was 20 below in Colorado. Freezing cold. We were all huddled in a shelter, a bunch of us strangers riding a bus. And in walks a woman with her ciggy. And I said, "Ma'am, this shelter says no smoking. We're in here because it's cold. Put that out or go out there and smoke." And she dumped it. I was like, I am not going to put up with that. I may be a small guy, people, but you know what? I will speak my mind. But it bothers me. Today, I'm going home from church. I was in the left lane on a boulevard, not a freeway, 45 miles an hour. I was going 45. There was heavy traffic. I didn't need to move to the right. I couldn't. There was too many cars. And some of them were poking along, and I was going the speed limit. This woman roars up at me in her Toyota 4Runner and crowds my bumper. And I'm thinking, lady, that thing's smaller than my truck. Give it up. She's tailgating. We get to the light, and I stop. I keep enough space cushion between me and the vehicle in front of me. And then I see her go like this. And I looked in the mirror and I said out loud, "Speed limit is 45. She can't hear me because she's behind me. I didn't yell it out. Well, then, typical American white female, the light changes. She jerks into the right, can't get around that traffic, and then a third lane to the right opens up. She screams and goes 80 miles an hour past all that traffic, and then cuts back over to get in my lane. I get down 3 or 4 lights later, and guess who's there? Fat woman in SUV, and I just thought, oh, I wish I was close enough and say, "Hey, did you accomplish anything in that move? Because I'm going the speed limit," and there you are. American people cannot, especially baby boomers, cannot take correction, cannot take it when somebody calls them out for what they do. I remember there were times when I would say something to my folks where they were wrong. My dad would explode. My mother would explode. They liked being bosses and they liked being authority. But don't you dare tell them they're wrong. Baby boomers are responsible for the bulk of the problems in American society to this day. Baby boomers were addicted to television. They were addicted to materialism. They were addicted to their pets. And the kids suffered in so many ways. They might have got their material needs met, but a lot of those kids didn't know what love is. They didn't know what sacrifice was. They weren't taught to be content with little. They weren't taught to never get in debt. They weren't taught that animals are animals and people are more important than Poochie and kitty cat and goldfish and parakeet. I'm here to tell you, I know I'll get my naysayers, but I've been around and I've watched this stuff. When you look at the Titanic on the bottom of the ocean floor, there's the bow, and then there's all these decks that slant down and collapsed, and then it's ripped, and the stern is upside down way over there. The baby boomers is where the decks started to collapse culturally. The baby boomers were part of the 60s, lovely 60s generation, rebel and question everything, burn our bras, don't shave our armpits. Woodstock was so great. Nobody wants to talk about the dirty diapers and the rain and the muck and the pot smoking. And I look back on the 60s and all I can think of, it was really a scuzzy, hygienically disgusting time for the American people. And they thought they were living. Girls burned their bras, girls walk around with their breasts, nipples showing through their shirt, thought they were free, and actually they found out that they just got themselves into more bondage. Most of the rock music that came out at that time was psychedelic and drug-inducing, drug-infested, drug-addicted, into the occult, into all this bizarre and weird stuff. I don't think anything good came out of the 60s, guys and girls. And those people became parents. And not all those people participated in that rebel behavior. But a lot of the philosophies still persist to this day. Here in Denver, everybody's 420 friendly now. Almost everybody. They've legalized medicinal marijuana, and we got marijuana shacks all over the place. People growing it and everything else. In Colorado, most of what I see are cars aren't older than 2 years old. People are driving SUVs and four-door pickups, and they don't even need them. And there's an attitude out here. I'm talking about Denver, but this is reflective of the whole U.S. I don't care if you go to Atlanta, Georgia, or somewhere down in Louisiana or someplace else. We are infected with this pus. We are infected with this cancer. I don't respect most of the baby boomers. I see the breakdown in our churches, in our schools, in everything. And baby boomers never really took a stand. The only stand that baby boomers take is when their little toes are stepped on. Then they want to, scream peas over it. But that is my belief based on experience. I believe many people will concur with me. I am not perfect. I lack tools. I have a son. I tried to impart to him the best I know, and I still try to impart to him the best I know. One thing that he's been able to see is that he saw his father, who was very caught up in stuff, move away from that and simplify and stay out of debt and work hard, and that I still faithfully go to church and I do take God seriously. Does my son know all of my follies? No. It's not something I'm going to talk about. And Pacific has had its follies. I grew up with so much insecurity in my home, watching no love between the mother and father, that I was put up for adoption to begin with. That has weighed on me heavily over the years. And then to be adopted by a family that just didn't have their crap together. Yes, they worked. Yes, we had stuff. But where's the love? So funny. My mother had found out years later that, I had kind of slept around and, dated many women, and she was appalled at that. And I just look at her and think, you can't figure it out, can you? And the baby boomers, I'm going to say something very blunt. They really are hypocrites. Most of them. I go to churches and they talk about Jesus and can quote their Bibles and buy their little precious moments and fill their house with all this Christian bric-a-brac and tchotchkes. But as actually seeing genuine faith lived out by these people, I can't count on two hands genuine, bona fide, living examples of faith in the baby boomers at all. I find some of the people my age, even other YouTube fans that watch me, they take their faith seriously. They'll admit they have their shortcomings, but they're repulsed by their elders and their behavior. And I didn't get my faith from my folks at all. At all. And I would never listen to one word they have to say about religion or God because they don't know what they're talking about. And I look at the church today and I hear the pastor say that Christians can't say sorry, that the baby boomer is not passing the baton of faith, that statistically there's this massive gulf between the baby boomers and the young people as far as God. And it's because young people have said, you know what? Your God doesn't exist because we see the way you live, and your God isn't this God you talk about on Sunday. Your God is your SUV, your God is your entertainment and your television and Hollywood and your sports and your dogs and your house, and don't touch that piece of furniture. And that is the baby boomers' God. And workaholics that want to worry about padding their 401k and buying their motor home and going to Cancun. I look at my aunt and uncle. He was a banker, and they're living as selfishly as they can, spending all their money on themselves and bragging every year in a Christmas letter This month we did this, and this month we did this. And what did they hand to their kids? Their son has been divorced. Well, I don't know where he's at now, but he was married to a beautiful Filipino woman, had 2 kids by her, wouldn't lift a finger to help her, but played video games and read sci-fi novels. In fact, his whole living room was filled with collapsing bookshelves with sci-fi novels, and he was addicted to video games. And his own wife, I remember when my wife and I went out to visit, I even said to my wife, I said, that poor woman, she's pulling the baby carriage and all the stuff down at the beach, and here's my cousin running off with his younger brother, and they're going to go and get on a jet ski, and they could care less. And even my cousin is just a couple years younger than me, and yet even I have more care and couth than that. He left her and married a woman that looked exactly like her and had a couple more kids. I looked on his Facebook recently, and that woman is nowhere to be found in photos at all. I thought, well, maybe he's divorced. But he's a doctor, and his parents bragged about all the degrees he got and how successful he was because he graduated Cal Poly, summa cum laude, and all that crap. You know why I'm against college? You know why I'm against American culture? Because I grew up with that aunt and uncle. And though they were nice to me and I got some blessings like San Clemente and Disneyland, they didn't model Christian faith. They didn't model Christian faith at all. When I was there as a teenager, they encouraged us to watch, and I'm not going to name this movie because several of you guys will go, oh, I'm going to have to go check that out. Some coal miner who was having incest with his daughter. And I'm waiting for the aunt to say, you guys should not be watching that. We're turning it off. She comes out, oh yeah, that's a good movie. She's a beautiful actress. Yeah, she's beautiful, all right. Buck naked. That same aunt went skinny dipping with me in the pool one night as a teenager. You know, I'm telling you, the baby boomers did not get it right. And to follow their example is a joke. And then we wonder why our churches are messed up. That's why. They go on vacations all the time because he made good money. And I applaud him for his hard work. But it's really disgusting. I, years ago, finally wrote her and said, please stop sending us these Christmas letters. Not everybody did as financially well as you do. And we're tired of hearing about all your cruises and your grandstanding about how you did this benevolent act for these people and how you went to Aruba and snorkeled in Cancun and, you know, smoked a Swiss pipe in the Alpenhof Lodge or whatever. I don't care. And you know what? She never wrote me again. C'est la vie. That's the family I grew up with. Easy come, easy go. You're adopted, blood's thicker than water. I watched the folks that adopted me and my sister. They had a natural born. They are close to her. They are not close to me. Interesting. Blood is thicker than water is a fact. The baby boomer generation, I grew up with them. They were my neighbors. They were people I watched, and all I saw was a comfortable quest for more stuff and more of the good life, and not modeling much of anything of solid foundational substance of commandment living and morals and true love for each other and staying the course. I didn't see any of that. I didn't see any of that at all. Ironically, these 2 people that I'm talking about, my folks, they are still married, though not in love. She had an addition built onto the house and put him back there. And yet when they're together in front of all the relatives, they make a good show. But we grew up in this house. Hugs and kisses were not natural. And most of the time, the only touching I got was being shoved out of the way, pushed aside, condescended to, or spanked or hit or thumped or whatever. There were times I deserved discipline, but neither one of them disciplined appropriately, ever. They did it in total anger, and to this day, they have never said, we're sorry, we love you, can we talk? This video is not a poor me video, but when I heard the pastor say that the baby boomers aren't handing it, I wanted to jump up and say, Pastor, can I please have the microphone? You don't know who I am. If I become famous, you will. But give me that microphone, I'll stand up and take on that whole congregation. I walked out of there today, and I can't tell you how many people that are 10, 15 years older than me don't even say hi to me. The baby boomers. You know what? But they've all got their Christian bumper stickers. They're all involved in the church. Viewers, I was called to one of my friends in Florida today. He told me that you just need $25,000 in the bank to establish residency in Thailand. And I said, "Are you serious?" He says, "Well, you're not going to be able to retire on that, but if you have $25,000 in the bank, produce a bank statement, you can fill out the paperwork and get residency." I'm like, you just gave me a goal to shoot for. It's $50,000 in the Philippines. I'm going to say it again. My last dream, and my only dream at this point, is to leave this country. I love America, but I'm concerned about the direction we've been heading for a long time, and I think things are going to get uglier and uglier. I can't even drive across this city without somebody almost hitting me, being rude in traffic, cutting me off, tailgating me, road bullying. I am a good driver. I'm not perfect, but I'm a lawful, good driver, and I'm courteous and conscientious to people. I signal, I give them advance warning. People in America will deliberately spite somebody they don't even know and just start something. I would rather be around a bunch of Christians in the underground church in China that smile at me and put their arms around me and say, "God bless you, Brother Pacific. Let's pray." I don't see that in this country. I see cliques and country club mentalities in churches and a bunch of immature, diapered saints, and that's all I see. And most of them are the baby boomers on down. I have strayed, viewers. I have done things, even recently, that are not moral. I have sinned. I have slept with women because it was mutual, and I'm not defending or justifying that. I'm human too. But I did not get a good foundation. And then I go to church, and then I don't tell people my personal life. Why would I? Why would I hold myself accountable to people like that? Put a target on my back so they can look down on me even more? No way. I want to get closer. I do. There are times I go to bed at night and say, "God, I'm sorry. I have failed you. I have failed to live according to your truth, and I'm sorry." If only I could get my focus and keep it there. One of my viewers made a trailer for me, and I won't call him out because I didn't ask for permission, but I was so touched by that. He likes my videos, and he said, "I'm still experimenting with this, so I want to tweak it and stuff," and it was fabulous. You know what's sad? I don't even know you guys, but some of you people are becoming community through this medium. And I honestly wish I had enough money to go around and take the time to meet y'all. Because in our commercial world, we have stars, and they could care less about their fans, and I don't want to get there. I want to reach people. I want to make a difference. It'd be nice if I made money on this simply to get where I want to go. But if I don't, I will do this as long as I can, whether I make money or not. If I'm rich, I'll do it from the other side. But this video is about baby boomers. They're not very good. And it's funny, in Minnesota, when I remember my friend came to me and said, "All these baby boomers are going to be retiring, dude, and you could get state jobs driving snowplows and everything." 2 years went by and there was no jobs posted for anything. I said, "Well, what happened?" As the baby boomers left, they shut down all those positions. Selfish? You better believe it. A lot of positions were created because people knew somebody, and money was wasted left and right. Left and right. A lot of the baby boomers in places that I've lived had good, cushy jobs and sat on their butt and did nothing because they knew somebody and they got a job. I remember hearing a guy tell a story that worked for the railroad up in Minnesota. He was the caboose guy. He pulled the stop to tell the engineer in the locomotive stop. He and the guys would get out and go to the liquor store and go get booze and get crap-faced in the back of the caboose. He said, "Shoot, we did that all the time." They got paid union wages with the railroad doing that. Miners up in northern Minnesota that would go and hide out behind the shack drinking, moonshine bottles or whatever, not doing their job. Baby boomers, man. They raked in, they cleaned up, they got the retirement, they got the good jobs, and they don't care about us. There's a woman that did a thing about job searches and just going through that as a full-time job, and she was laughing at these ads, wanting college, wanting this, and there is no full-time jobs. They're all part-time jobs unless you get on with the government, which is the largest employer in the U.S., and if you want to work for Obama and friends, eat your heart out. But you know what's disgusting? There are no good jobs right now. It's cleaning toilets, it's driving school buses, it's jobs that are high stress. There you can get fired from easily, make a mistake, or grueling physical jobs with low pay. And they want all these college degrees, and they want 5 years experience in these positions that nobody's ever heard of. It's like, yeah, somebody's gonna come along and have 5 years experience in this town. You employers have become lazy sons of bitches. They don't want to train people to do jobs. They can be picky, picky, picky like white women in America, putting all these requirements on guys that no guy can meet, and these employers are doing the same thing, and then they wonder why they can't get a good employee. Well, if you'd pay more than $9 an hour and maybe train somebody and apprentice them, you might have somebody who'll stick around. But America doesn't care about us anymore, people. Mr. Obama doesn't care about you anymore. Your employer doesn't care about you anymore. And this is the majority. There are exceptions. Walmart doesn't care about you. Kmart, Sears, and the American government doesn't care about you. And neither do most of your parents. Am I being dismal? It has hit me so hard in the last 2 weeks. I am not in need of medication. I am not on depression. But I'm waking up. And I'm going, you know what? Instead of bitching about it, I want to leave. Is it better over there? In some ways, no. But in some ways, it is. You know, you go to Thailand, you go to the Philippines, you go to Indonesia, and they're still families. And they still discipline their kids, and they still carry some things that we used to. Yeah, I could go on, but I put the blame of all of our problems right now, the bulk majority of them can be attributed to the baby boomers. They're the me first, selfish, materialistic, dog worshiping, $5 coffee drinking, crazy people. And I could say so much more about this, but I'm going to upload this video and you guys tell me what you think. And this is Pacific signing off from the garage. Oh, the next person that asks to see my nipples, that's a man, you're going to get this. So I don't go that way. Seriously. I appreciate you guys with your humor, but for all you trolls out there, you guys need to get a job. Seriously. I'm done. This is Pacific signing off. Bye-bye.